Drain plug that we're looking at right here. And that drain plug has been always having a little drop of oil on the bottom for about a good 4 or 5 weeks. So I've been keeping an eye on it, but I'm starting to notice it shift a little bit more like metal on metal with less lubrication. So today I noticed that underneath this I'm seeing some oil, and under this screw I'm seeing some oil. So obviously driving forward, if it's mainly just leaking from the drain plug, obviously you could get some dripping down here. But it's a little bit harder to make a case for it being so dirty up in here. That might make, and the little oil drip at the bottom of this area, which makes me think it might be coming from up above, and that maybe the gasket for this whole primary case needs to be replaced. But I've never had this primary case taken off, so the gasket should be just fine. So darn, what I'm gonna do right now is I'm just gonna go buy some new primary synthetic oil, top it off, and just keep an eye on it again. But I might need a new gasket for this primary case, which doesn't make sense if it's never been taken off, the primary case. Go figure. I'm really kind of at a loss, but that's where I'm gonna start. I'm gonna put it up on the jack tomorrow, top it off with some brand new primary synthetic oil, and at least then I know I'm not running with the primary empty of oil. And just keep an eye on it, I guess. I don't know. Okay, so here's the plan. Can you believe this was with tax almost $15 for one thing of synthetic lubricant that will be used in the primary. So the plan is tomorrow morning to well, I'm gonna go to church and confession, but when I get home from that, the plan is to really clean up the bottom of the primary, wheel it out, get it on this jack, and then let it idle. Just I'm gonna let it idle for 5 minutes, because if you don't have a fan to blow on the engine, you can't let it idle too long. So I'm gonna let it idle 5 minutes, turn it off, and see if I can see where the oil's dripping from. If not, wait a couple hours, come out and let it idle again for 5 minutes again. And just do that even 3 or 4 times if I have to throughout the course of the day, until I can see where the oil is dripping from. Because I pointed out those 2 primary bolts that it appears to also be dripping from, and then that would actually be good news in my mind, because the worst case scenario is there's no O-ring with the bolt for the oil pan. So the worst case scenario is the guy didn't use an O-ring and he screwed it in too tight and he cracked the primary. That's worse. The worst case scenario. That's expensive to buy a whole new primary. So if it's mainly coming out of those 2 screws that are just screwing in the primary, where the drainage plug is in between these 2, then it's just the gasket that I need to be replacing. So tomorrow morning, I hope to include you guys with the process and get to the bottom of this. All right. Okay, so I got Big Red Betsy up on the jack. Ozzy just can't calm down. And it's real nice and clean down here. So we're gonna watch and see where it comes out. Here, here, or here. This one's really dirty. So I'm wondering if it's this one or this one. Okay, so I think I found out what the problem is. Problem is, this gasket is not the right gasket. The gasket that is right is just a thin piece that goes all around the edge. So the guy didn't even put an O-ring on the drain plug. He didn't use the right gasket. And I mean, I looked forward to this tune-up and I saved for this tune-up for a long time. And for them to just take your money and not do anything. Okay, now I'm just starting to bitch. But, you know, I don't really understand it. Just using wrong parts. How hard is it to put on an O-ring? And, you know, the oil is pretty low right now. It's supposed to be coming right up to the edge when it's horizontal or perpendicular to the ground like this and not leaning on the kickstand. It's basically supposed to come right up to the edge. And it's at least probably, I'd say 15 ounces low maybe, and it's only supposed to take like 31. So I think it's about halfway low. So the choice is to go buy a new gasket right now or to just buckle it up. You know what? I want to ride today. I think I'm just going to put in some oil and buckle it up, because what I found was a little line going down here, but maybe I should really make sure that that's the problem. I think it is though, because look at how much is out here, how much oil's out here. Damn it, I think I'm gonna decisions. Might as well do it right. I'm gonna go get the new gasket. Might talk to the manager too. I mean, how hard is it to throw on an O-ring? But what good would it really do? I mean, all that manager would do was go, oh, this guy's having a bad day, or this guy's in a bad mood. He won't actually do anything with it. Or think, let's see if we can tighten up our service department. I don't think they think like that. So now gotta wait for the Harley shop to open. Darn it, it's Sunday. I'm not even sure if they're open on Sundays. So that's what I'm gonna do next, check on that. Okay, so as I said yesterday, this lubricant cost me like $14.95. So I got the receipt for that. I'm gonna try to get them to pay for the gasket, the correct gasket, which should have been covered in my 20,000 mile tune-up, and this, because I shouldn't have to pay for this to replace all of the lubricant that I lost on the road because the seal wasn't correct. So yeah, I don't think I'm gonna have any luck, but it is standard practice if you do shoddy workmanship that leads to additional financial costs, that they would cover it. So we'll see how that goes. See here in the owner's manual, you can see the seal is, just like I said, one little ring that goes around the edge in between the primary cover and the clutch inspection cover. So it's just one ring. It's not that big flat thing that he put on, and it didn't fit properly. So that's why. The idiot, he didn't have the right gasket, or the right seal, they're calling it here. So he could have just used the old one. I mean, I've used the same one ever since I got the motorcycle. No, I've only changed it once, but I mean, they never leaked. And I did several primary changes before I changed it out. So that's what he should have done. He should have just used the same one instead of a one that doesn't fit properly. And I'm gonna ask for an O-ring, since he didn't even bother to put an O-ring on there. Okay, I'm gonna stop complaining once again. Okay, I'm driving home from Harley, and that was a waste of time. But as I said, I took the receipt for the synthetic oil. I took the wrong gasket, and damn it if the service department isn't open today. So I waited for 11. It was like 9:15 when I decided to go, but they didn't open until 11. So long story short, I got to come back Tuesday, not even tomorrow. So tomorrow's Monday, so I'm going to go home, top off the synthetic oil, put the bad gasket back on and the cover on, because it's Sunday. I got to go for a ride, right? I mean, I just won't feel right otherwise. So that's the plan. And then it takes, just a couple minutes to, well, I'll have to get it back on the jack. That took some time. But, it's all good. And the guy I spoke to felt confident that they would reimburse me for both the gasket and the synthetic oil. So I'll keep my fingers crossed, and I'll start filming again regarding this on Tuesday. Hopefully it all goes well. Good morning, fellow YouTubers. I got some good news. So this will actually be the last segment of the primary leak issue. So as I just got done saying, they weren't open, so I went home and just buckled everything back up so I could take a ride. And so I took, let's see, at least a good hour ride, got home, and there was absolutely no oil anywhere. So maybe he didn't put that primary cover back on just right. I'm not sure, but I'm gonna ride. I'm going to play tennis right now with my son. I'm gonna ride it again, and if it has no more leaks at all, still good. If it does have a leak, tomorrow's when they're open again, the Harley dealership, and I'll take it back in, take that gasket back in. But I don't think I'm gonna need to. So problem averted. Because there was a lot of different places it could have been coming out of. It could have been coming out of the drain plug, which I showed you, or either one of those screws was maybe a little bit loose and was actually coming out of where the primary case has two halves, where it's where the gasket is down there on the bottom. Or it could have been leaking from somewhere up above, like possibly out of the oil filter, and getting blown back, and that's where it was showing up before it dripped off. Could have been maybe coming from up above the primary somewhere and dripping down, and that's just where I saw it. So that's the only reason why I thought about taking it into Century Motorcycles on Pacific, close to where I live. But I mean, I would have been out $200 and for nothing, basically. So it's got some new oil in there. It's not leaking. Wonderful. No money lost, except for obviously the cost of that synthetic oil. So hooray!